and thanks for joining me in this video, which is the Management Case Study Strategic Analysis for Aurora. My name is Richard Lewis. I'm a writer and a tutor here at Astranti, and I'm going to be taking you through this pack page by page. Now, first of all, let's have a talk about the industry that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the automotive industry, okay? Now, cars are part of our everyday lives. We've all driven them or been driven in them, but I'm not sure that all of us know the workings of the industry behind it. And that's really what we're trying to get to grips with. Now, Aurora is a large, well-established company based in Westland in Europe. It's got significant revenues but slim margins, and it faces numerous challenges in its day-to-day operations and in the long-term market. So it's an interesting business for us to analyse, so let's get on with it. So the purpose of this video is to show you how the rational planning model of strategic analysis can be used with any company. Okay, we're going to use it on the case company, Aurora, so that we can look at where the company is trying to go, analyse where it is now, and then generate strategies for getting there. If you need a reminder of any of the theories, see our MCS study text part 2, which summarises all the key MCS relevant models from E2, F2 and P2. So with that said, let's move on. The first stage of the analysis is to ensure that we fully understand where we're heading. If you don't know where you're heading, you're never going to get there. So we need to look at our future mission and objectives. Of course, part of that is mapping out our stakeholders so that we understand who we're doing this for, who has a stake in our future, and how should we behave towards them. Should we satisfy them or keep them close? Okay, let's move on. Now, the mission is, what is the organisation all about? Why does it exist? Who does it exist for? What's it trying to achieve? Now, the key elements of good mission statements I've put down below so that you can pause the screen if you want to and revise them. But our case company, Aurora, his mission is to supply high quality vehicles at a reasonable price for worldwide customer satisfaction. And their vision is to build exciting, efficient, reliable and safe cars that customers will wish to buy and drive. So that's what it's aiming to do. Of course, it's quite a general mission, so it's quite hard to get objectives and measure against it. Well, of course, missions are necessarily not measurable, but of course the company would have actual objectives. It would have focused targets, but we're not told what those are. We're told that they want to make high quality vehicles at reasonable prices, they want to build global alliances and global expansion, but they don't tell us anything more specific. Now, we would assume that they do have specific targets, but of course, if anything in the unseen part of the exam suggests that they don't, then obviously that would be a weakness in their planning approach. Now, I'm thinking the balanced scorecard could work well for a company like Aurora because it gives importance to environmental issues in its values, but there's little evidence of robust non-financial performance measurement in the case. Now, when it comes to the governance of the organisation, corporate governance, as you know, is the way organisations are directed and controlled. The idea is to ensure that the organisation is run in a way that's right for all stakeholders, especially the shareholders. Now, I'm not going to run through everything on this page. You can pause and have a look if you like. The idea is to have a look at governance applied to the case study of Aurora. Okay, now first of all, we've got no mention of non-executive directors, and so we need to query whether or not Aurora does indeed follow good practice under the combined code. Now, you would assume as a listed, publicly quoted company, they would, but look out in the unseen for anywhere where they are not fulfilling that best practice. We also don't get any mention of committees such as the Remuneration Committee, Audit Committee, Nomination Committees, which are there in good governance to ensure that there is no foul play when it comes to determining directors' pay or who gets appointed to the best jobs. What I would look out for in the unseen part of the exam would be any weaknesses around disclosures of directors and pay, anything around financial reporting and control or information for the directors, any suggestion that there aren't regular meetings with institutional shareholders. You'd expect them to be. doing that. Any indication that they don't make a decent use of the AGM to keep their shareholders abreast of changes and strategy. You'd want to look out for things like family ties, conflicts of interest, that sort of thing. Now, Aurora talks about the environment in its strategy statement and also in its corporate values. It also mentions diversity of cultures and customs. And so we expect CSR to be very important to Aurora. So in the exam, you've got to consider the impact of all stakeholders in your recommendations on any issue that you're going to be considering. Now, specific issues regarding CSR might include environmental issues. We know reduced fuel consumption, both in engines and production, is going to be a concern. Energy audits, reduced emissions is going to be big for Aurora because of the way that the industry is being asked to develop itself to take better care of the environment. Sourcing materials is also going to be part of that. Are they recyclable? And so on. When it comes to staff diversity, we've already mentioned HR and staff treatment, especially upstream in the supplier base. We want to be making sure that none of the suppliers that sell into Aurora are treating their staff in a way that would reflect badly on Aurora. Now, what we don't get in the case study is anything really to suggest any great benefit to the community. We don't hear about the amazing charity work they're doing or something. So look out for an opportunity in the exam to make a recommendation around that. Now, when it comes to ethics, we're looking out for responsible business practices. There's nothing in the case to suggest that they don't practice responsible business practices, but look out for anything in the exam that might suggest they do not. Supplier auditing is particularly important because you've got such a devolved network of collaborative relationships. Then it's very hard for Aurora as a parent company and also just one value chain in a value system to get full visibility on every single cog in that machine, every single partner that they're dealing with. Okay, they really need to be auditing their suppliers to make sure that they do conform to ethical and environmental standards. Another thing we need to look at before we can work out how to get to Aurora's future is what success looks like for Aurora. The critical success factors are the key things that the organisation must do well if it's going to succeed. So therefore, it's absolutely critical that each CSF, critical success factor, for the case organisation is developed and improved. Okay. So the way that you would use it is that if you see something in the unseen that supports the critical success factors, that's evidence that you should be supporting that strategy. And conversely, if something is suggested which would be contradictory to the CSFs, then you would question whether or not it was appropriate. Okay, so let's move on and have a look at critical success factors applied to the case company. All right, now first of all, cost. This is a low margin business, so cost reduction is always going to be a critical success factor for Aurora. Okay, cost. Supply chain is also a core competency, even if it's outsourced, so that's going to be a critical success factor. The company absolutely depends on supplies, and more these are large assemblies that it's buying in from outside manufacturers, mega suppliers, and so it really is a core competency. Brand and reputation is something that sells cars, especially when more and more the insides of cars are pretty much the same sort of thing. So really, car manufacturers are only really differentiating brands on ideas. So customers have to trust you, and it's all about the reputation and the brand that you've built. Quality and safety in real terms are absolutely a critical success factor, so customers retain a good experience. Next, research and development. The company must stay on trend. For example, it can't ignore the trend towards driverless cars, so research and development is absolutely critical to success. Then lastly, market share. This is, as we've said, a low margin business, which means it's a volume business. So more means more. More sales means more profit. That's the only way you get more profit in a low margin business. All right, so those are the CSFs as I see them. Let's talk about stakeholders. Now, the stakeholders are people who are affected in some way by what the organisation does, they have a stake in its future. That's how I always think about it. Now, any organisational objective, anything the organisation plans to do, has to be considered in relation to the objectives of different stakeholders. Different stakeholders have different needs and different sets of expectations for what they want to get out of their involvement in the company. So considering all the stakeholders ensures that a wide range of needs are considered in the setting of objectives, and it means that balanced objectives are going to be produced. Now, not only is it critical to the organisation, it's critical to your exam, it's a really good model to bring into so many questions. Every issue has stakeholders, and so you can gain technical marks for bringing out this model. And please try to refer to this as much as you can. Okay, it's not enough though just to sort of mention it or show that you've understood Mendelow's matrix. You've got to apply it. You've got to actually map the stakeholders for the case in hand and show them in their respective box and explain how we need to act towards those stakeholders. So let's have a look now at my analysis of the stakeholders in Aurora. I think up here in the low interest, low power, so minimal effort box are going to be employees of suppliers and service providers. People like cleaners that come and clean the offices and the factories are the lowest effort type of stakeholder. They need to show these stakeholders some consideration, but the least consideration. All right. Next, we have the set of stakeholders who have a high interest in the company, but they still have low power. Okay, these are going to be most customers, most employees, suppliers, and small minority shareholders. Okay, these people really are interested in what is happening at the company and how things are going to turn out, but they can't really do much about it if they don't like it. Okay, so you keep them informed, but you don't have to really modify a whole bunch of things to please these stakeholders. Now, in the next box, we've got the stakeholders who have extremely high power, but they're not really that interested, and that would be most institutional stakeholders, shareholders, I should say, banks and government regulators. Okay, they have high power because institutional shareholders can remove their shareholding or sell their shareholding, and suddenly the company's got no backing. Similarly, banks can do the same thing. They can call in their loans or they can refuse loans. Government regulators can shut you down or fine you or sanction you in other ways. Okay, so they have high power, but they're not following you from day to day. These are the people that you just need to keep satisfied. What they want, you have to give them. But what they want is not volatile, okay? Regulators want you to follow the regulations and respect the law. It's very easy to comply. Similarly, banks need you to pay back your interest, okay? So it's not going to be a volatile situation. You don't need to be ringing them every day to find out what they need from you. You know what they need. However, here in the bottom right corner are the key players who you do need to keep close. And these are going to be the owners, okay? These are the major shareholders. There's going to be other key directors and major partners such as government. So Peugeot, for example, has the French state owns significant stakeholding, as does the Chinese state via a state-owned car manufacturer. So those people are significant partners in the business, and they need to be kept close. Similarly, internal, external regulatory bodies. Now, just before I go, let me remind you that this is not the end of it. We do offer a full range of support materials, including the study text and other course videos. We do the industry analysis, where we look at the real world industry that your case study is based on. We do mock exams around the case study exam, and we offer marking, feedback and masterclasses, all of which are covered by the Astranti Pass guarantee. So I'll see you in the next video.